All right, guys, so this video is going to be a sales video that covers honest reverse psychologies and how recommending against buying our product, the flatbed, is actually good in certain situations. So the first thing I'll say is that this is not some like bait and switch or dishonest or slimy tactic. This is actually coming from an honest perspective. You'll see why when I explain all of this. To preface this, like I said, you should never lie about anything or be disingenuous, because if you do, number one, it's wrong. Number two, you're gonna sound fake, because it is. And number three, being truthful is more effective. So I'm gonna start out with an example of when to use this tactic. The best time to use this tactic is when people are pushing back on the price. The price is too high. I'll kind of just give you an example of what we would tell a customer and use our honest reverse psychology. Generally kind of brings them back around. Sometimes they don't. You can't get everybody if you think that you're gonna be pretty disappointed when you get in this program, but a lot of the times they will circle back around. So if somebody's pushing back on the price, this is kind of what we say. Let's say our customer's name is Jim. Jim's unhappy about the price. He thinks it's too expensive. So here's what we would say. So Jim, I understand, we're not the low-cost leader. We just aren't. If cost is the only thing that you're worried about, like the actual price of the bed, that's the only factor that you're worried about, I actually would recommend you probably don't go with us. I'd recommend you probably go with a CM or Bradford Built. There's a couple other places in town that sell beds for cheaper than us. One thing I will leave you with, though, is if you want something that's extremely nice, that you get a little bit more customization on, the service is going to be better from the manufacturer's end, because it would be us in that case, and you want the details paid attention to, if that's the case, we can nail that for you and those other guys aren't going to be able to. So again, if price is your only sticking point, I'd recommend you probably hang up the phone, go talk with them. They're going to be able to get you a bed for an absolute cheaper price. But if you want to spend 20% more money and get 50% more value, I can tell you with confidence that we can do that for you, because I got reviews of past customers that can back that up. And we actually get a lot of guys like you, Jim. We get a lot of people that say, you guys are just, you got nice beds, but man, they're pretty ridiculously priced. And we end up talking them into it, and they are never disappointed at the end, because let me tell you, these things are cool in photos, which is kind of what you've been looking at. But when you see these things in person, whole nother ball game. You'll be able to see the absolute detail and the quality. You're gonna be able to see and feel the difference immediately of this versus one of those off-the-shelf beds. So if you're still wanting to go with them, totally fine. But if quality is something that you care about, detail is something that you care about, we can nail that for you. And when you say that, a lot of times the people that are really upset about the price, or seemingly so, once you kind of lay that out there, they become a lot more receptive to you, because they now trust you, because you're basically saying look, if price is all you care about, there are better options than us, if price is the only thing you care about. But if you want X, Y, and Z, then we're absolutely a better choice. And most people do want X, Y, and Z, to tell you the truth. So in most cases, once you lay that out there, they're a lot more receptive to you in spite of you being slightly higher price, if that's the case. So here's a second way we can use this tactic, and we'll use Jim, same guy, same example, and this is what we would say. So Jim, I am a salesman, so if I were you, I probably wouldn't believe a word that I say, because we've all kind of been screwed, and I'm obviously trying to sell you the product, so you should probably take what I say with a grain of salt. However, if you want to come down to the shop and look at these things in person, because it's one thing for me to tell you they're great and awesome and blah, 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 but it's a whole other ballgame when you come down here and actually see the shop. You can see a couple beds we got in process. We got one finished on the work pickup you can take a look at. And I would challenge you to do that, because I think once you get down here, and you can be the judge, you're going to be blown away with the quality of these things, because it's one thing to look at these things in pictures, but to actually see the quality and detail of these, you got to see these things in person. So do you want to make a trip down to the shop, and you can kind of decide what you think of the quality before you make the decision? That's another way of kind of just being skeptical from the customer's perspective, because the customer is usually going to be skeptical. They're not really going to trust you. They're going to think you're lying. They're going to think you're exaggerating, because that's what most salespeople do. When you're skeptical and you put yourself in their shoes and just say, look, we aren't the cheapest, but if you want X, Y, and Z of better value, we 100% are a better choice. Or I wouldn't believe anything I say, but come down to the shop and check these things out and decide for yourself. When you say those kind of things, builds trust, also an extremely effective sales tactic. So never say anything untruthful, never be dishonest, basically be as skeptical as you can, pretending as if you were the skeptical customer, and then convey that to them on the sales call. Great way to land some more sales.